All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Martha Alter Hines, and I am so happy, so honored to be here with Heather Ensworth, who is a very good friend, a very important person in my own life, and she is releasing a new book. And it is so, I would say a masterpiece, actually a masterpiece, not exaggerating, truly. And for people who know Heather's work, this is a redo of a previous book, but when you sent it to me, Heather, you said, don't bother reading the whole thing, just skip to the end. That's kind of the new part. And so I was thinking that would be the case, and I opened the book, and went, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah, it ended up being a much more major revision than I anticipated.
Yeah. And it is amazing and so perfect for the time we're in. And yeah, I'm just really looking to this forward to this conversation because oh my goodness. So thank you, Heather, for being here. And yeah, wonderful. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
Thank you, Martha. It's great to be in this conversation with you, and we're both so in tune with what this time is about and how we're both trying to support others in this incredible time of shift on the planet. So thank you.
wonderful. Yeah. So would you like to start with just explaining where did this book come from originally? I mean, maybe the original book itself, and then now that one was published in 2009, is that right? And now it's 2026, so this is 17 years later. So and I know that you've been working really hard on this revision for at least a couple of years.
Mhm.
So yeah, do you want to talk about where the original book originated for you and why you wrote it in the first place, and then why the revision, just to give us the gist?
Wow, that's a great question. And that original book I worked on for about 9 years
Oh
before
wow.
I finally put it out because I didn't have a lot of time and I just kept trying to bring it through. That was the challenge in and of itself. But I think a lot of it was instigated by my exploration of ancient sacred sites around the globe. And the realization, it started my exploration of there really were these advanced cultures dating back 11, 12,000 years ago. And then it led me into the study of the precessional cycle and exploring the astrological ages and realizing our whole modern understanding of history is not accurate. And then it was profound to keep exploring prehistory and these ancient cultures and the realization of how many ancient cultures were very tuned in to the precessional cycle. And this awareness then that we not only go through times of major shift that are associated with the precessional cycle, and we'll get into that more later, but also that each age creates a lens through which we're experiencing our reality. And it's like a lesson in our journey of evolution of consciousness that we're called into. I mean, the ancient Egyptians had the sense that when stars are on the horizon, they incarnate and move among us. So if you think about the astrological ages being the time of the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere, the autumnal equinox in the southern hemisphere, those stars rising just before sunrise at that time of equinox are moving among us and creating this energetic to be guiding us in the lessons of that constellation of those stars, and that it is part of our journey of growth and evolution as humanity. So then it gave me the chance to look at how have we been working that? How is that manifested in these different ages? And where are we now in that cycle?
Yeah. And one of the things I absolutely loved in reading this book actually was quite similar to the effect of meeting you originally. The very, very, very first time I met you, almost exactly 4 years ago now. Interesting. Um, the very first time I connected with you, I had this feeling, and I had the feeling again reading your book, which is the sense of each of us has a particular spark, a particular light, a particular reason we're here on the planet. And I knew that, before I met you, but the very first time I met you, it was like this sense of just even being on the Zoom screen, suddenly my consciousness went, pew. It's like I got a big Jupiterian activation or something. I just went, oh my, wait a second. I thought I was like this. No, actually, I'm like this, you know? And so, something about, I feel like your role for the planet, for a lot of individuals, but really for life, is this sense of supporting us to come into the biggest context on, much, much bigger scale of who we are, why we're here, what in the world has been going on and is going on, and 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 where can we focus? Like, where is the center point that we are here to ground in and focus on? Um, and yeah, so when you bring in your book the the precessional cycle, but then also the the mm, the last 12,000 years of the ages, you start with the age of Leo. For me, it was so medicinal, even just in the last, couple of days sitting there reading it, because on a deep soul level, it was helping my own soul purpose land in my body in a completely different way. I was like, wow, thank you, Heather. Really, truly, truly. So I feel like, among other things, that's that's the medicine it offers. So I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that and yeah.
That's really beautiful, Martha. I mean, what's really interesting is my mission as in my background as a clinical psychologist and in all my healing work has been to truly see and hear the other, to mirror back who they really are. And this book is, if it carries that energetic for us individually as well as collectively, then I've really accomplished what I had hoped to, because it's also trying to look at our collective journey and how do we see who we really are as humanity and come back into that truth and into the capacity that we have when we can remember our true nature and the capacity of our consciousness. And I think our modern understanding of history is so caught in that illusion of separation. And now that modern understanding of scientific materialism that we've lost that connection to the capacity of our consciousness and that understanding that everything is conscious and we have this capacity to be in relationship with all that is. And the ancient cultures had more sense of that, and the indigenous cultures still do. But we need to reclaim that in order to heal and come back into balance as humanity to make the evolutionary leap I think we're capable of in this time.
And that it is time for right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so one of the big, big, big differences, I realize I haven't even given the name of your book. So I should probably tell people the name of this amazing book. The new book is called Astrological Ages and the Galactic Center. Um, right. And yeah, and so one of the big differences between the old version and the new version is that you, in this version, bring in the parallel of the yuga cycles with the precessional cycles and the precession of the ages. So that to me helped it land in my own being so much more powerfully. I mean, the I loved your original book, absolutely loved it when I read it years ago. Um, but this one I don't know if you want to give kind of the gist of it, right? My sense was that you're basically saying that the golden age in the Yuga cycles um was back in the time of what you're calling the age of Ophiuchus, or kind of the Virgo, Libra, Scorpius time. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then we started descending in our consciousness or awareness. We come to the nadir, or the bottom part of our remembering, which we go basically we start to go into the time of forgetting until we get to the bottom point, which was what, the age of Aries? Am I getting that right? Yeah. And then uh, in the age of Pisces, we began to ascend, but it's only just now, exactly a year ago, March 2025, that we exited the Kali Yuga. And so now we're making this shift, and we're in this liminal period coming out of the Kali Yuga into the next Yuga, and that's where we are, and we're at this launching point, and at this very, very pivotal um yeah, liminal space, which I just named a whole bunch of things that could each be spoken about for about 5 hours each. But do you want to kind of add to that, or yeah?
Well, what you're saying is so important. The book is a radical revision of that original version, Finding Our Center, and it is really influenced by Biphu Deb Misra's work with the Yuga Shift book that he put out, that so has done so much research on the Yuga cycle. And the Yuga cycle and the precessional cycle, from my perspective, are the same cycle. And they're both 24,000 years. What the Yuga cycle traces is this way in which we go through 12,000 years of ascending consciousness and then 12,000 years of descending consciousness. And we can talk about why that might be later, but it really tracks how we go through these shifts. And he also was very attuned to how those shifts in the Yuga cycle are related to earth changes as well as shifts in our consciousness, which I had also tracked in my research on the precessional cycle. So they are one and the same cycle. The Yuga cycle is looking at these periods of 3,000 year shifts, and the astrological ages are really looking at shifts every 2,000 years as we go into a different constellation rising before spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere. But it always brings shifts in consciousness and earth changes. But what's most significant is that every 12,000 years, so at the beginning of the precessional cycle and the midpoint, we go through this part of the solar system, the galactic current sheet, which causes major energies to impact our solar system and our Earth, that create significant shifts in our consciousness, but also significant Earth changes. And that is where we are now. And so, this, from my perspective, is a critical choice point in how we work this time of transition.
So there's so much we could say here. This is like how to focus on in the way that would be the most supportive to everybody. Um, do you want to now talk about this moment we're in? In your book, you have a whole chapter on liminal times, liminal spaces, right? Do you want to say a little bit about what that is for you and why that's so significant? Yeah.
Part of what I realized in my background in cultural anthropology and studying ancient cultures is they really understood that anytime you go through a rite of passage or a time of significant shift, you have to honor the ending of what was and being in the liminal time to move into a radically new way of being. Unfortunately, in our modern Western cultures, we view time and the progression of our lives as linear. You leave point A, you go to point B. But ancient cultures really understood that everything is cyclical. And you need to honor, just like we do in honoring the cycle of the moon. We tend to forget that in the cycle of the moon, there is the dark of the moon before the new moon emerges. That it's that liminal time where you've clearly ended one lunar cycle, but haven't quite started the next one. And ancient cultures knew that that liminal time is the time of transformation, of healing, of metamorphosis. And we are in that liminal time now because, as you were saying, in the correlation of the precessional cycle and the yuga cycle, we are now just coming out of the 5 to 6,000 years of the Kali Yuga, the time of our lowest level of consciousness. And we're seeing, and I think part of the time that we're in right now is the revealing of the trauma and all of the ways these paradigms of being caught in the Kali Yuga, caught in the illusion of separation, have led to such destructive patterns on the planet and these power over paradigms and the 5,000 years of patriarchy, which is the aberration in the precessional cycle. And that doesn't mean the remainder of the cycle is matriarchy. The remainder of the cycle, when we're in a higher level of consciousness, is about the balance of sacred masculine and sacred feminine. So we're in such a critical time on the planet now where we're being called to see what's been out of balance, to clear it, to heal it, to be in this liminal time of transformation, to emerge in a radically new way. It is like the caterpillar going into the chrysalis to become the butterfly. You can't go from caterpillar to butterfly without that time of death rebirth. And that's really the time that we're in on the planet right now. So all the turmoil that we're seeing is a purging, is both a clearing of the trauma and the out of balance patterns of the past. I mean, look at how much is coming into the light of consciousness, is being disclosed about corruption, about abuse, about sex trafficking, about all of the things that have been kind of kept in the shadows are coming into the light of consciousness so that we can see it, clear it, and heal it. But we're also seeing, and we're seeing it playing out in the world right now, the last gasp of these out of balanced power over paradigms trying to cling to control. But we need to realize when we understand this larger cycle and what's unfolding right now, we realize all of that will fail, will die. But we're being called into a radically new way of being and into a time of healing to move into higher consciousness. And part of what I find really fascinating about the precessional cycle and about our own astrological birth charts is they're a medicine wheel. And each age in the precessional cycle, each house in our astrological chart has, as you would say, a medicine, a gift, a way that we're being guided in our journey of growth and evolution. But as we know from the ancient medicine wheel practice, the intent of that practice is to eventually come to center, where you remember, I'm a soul self having this human experience, and you access the medicine and the gifts of the whole journey, but you realize you no longer are identified with any aspect of it, and have that opportunity then to come into wholeness and higher consciousness. And I believe that's where we are as humanity now, at a critical karmic choice point, where we have this opportunity to see the journey we've been in, gather the wisdom from it, and make this evolutionary leap and come into being the new humans, come into what the Peruvian shamans would say, become homo luminous ones, beings of light. But this is the time of transition that we're in, and we can either work that consciously, or if we get caught in resisting it or not being conscious of it, then we will go through a transformation. But I think it could then play out as kind of the precessional cycle cataclysmic reset that happened 12,000 years ago to help us in our evolutionary journey. But we're meant to step off the wheel and into higher consciousness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And given that everything I do is called living the one light, I completely agree. Yes, definitely. Um, so yeah, again, so many directions we could go with this, but what one thing coming up for me is we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, how one thing I just loved among many other things in the book was that I really got it. Um how when we have this bigger picture of the precessional cycle and the ages, etc., then every transit that we're currently having of any and all of the cosmic beings, but I'm thinking in particular of the nodes of the moon, every moment is an opportunity for us not only to be, experiencing what's happening in this exact second, like we're recording this on tonight, yeah, tonight is a lunar eclipse, very powerful lunar eclipse in Virgo, for example, right? So let's say anything that's happening in the moment you happen to be listening to this is a moment. And it energetically bounces with everything else, including the the opportunity to integrate the energies of every age. It's a lot of thoughts to try to put into a few sentences. But so, for example, right now, I'm thinking about the fact that we have currently, just for another few months, we have the South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, which parallels the reality that we're coming out of the age of Pisces, right? And what do you call it, the sub age of Virgo? Yeah. And so we have these gifts of the age, these gifts of Virgo and Pisces that we have the opportunity in this time right now between now, we're doing this in March 2026, and then um, the nodes are going to shift at the end of July 2026, right? So we have this kind of concentrated time for another few months where the nodes of the moon are really supporting us to be integrating those energetics. And then the nodes are going to be switching at the end of July into Leo and Aquarius, which is amazing because we're now moving into the age of Aquarius, and the polarity to that is Leo, and they both have incredible gifts and medicine in and of themselves too. So I would love to hear a little more about your thoughts on that. And I also am just really feeling the presence of Lilith. So I just want to say one thing about that, because you talk about Lilith in your chapter on Virgo, and she feels really important to me in all of this. Um,
Squaring lunar nodes.
right now, is she?
Black Moon Lilith
Oh,
is.
Black Moon Lilith. Oh, no, yeah, okay, yeah, great. I didn't even realize that. But the asteroid, no, but the asteroid Lilith in 2026 is exceedingly prominent as well because the asteroid Lilith was at 0 degrees of Aries when Saturn entered Aries on February 20th. So she was conjunct the Saturn-Neptune conjunction we just had. She will also be precisely to the degree conjunct Uranus in June at 2 degrees of Gemini when Uranus squares the nodes. So to me, those are the two big, big, big transits of 20. There's the balloons of 2026. And Lilith is right there both times. So anyway, there's so much in all of that, but anything you feel called to speak to. Yeah.
Well, part of what you're saying, Martha, that I think is so beautiful, and I've been more and more aware. and deeply moved to realize how we are held in the love and wisdom of the cosmos and of the earth. And with the earth changes, the earth herself is in her own process of healing and transformation. The cosmos is guiding us in such an exquisite, synchronized, loving way, step by step, in how we can go through this transition time and do it consciously, which allows us to do it more gently, to emerge in a new way on the other side of this liminal period. So when we can really attune to these planetary energies and the movement of the stars and planets, they're showing us how we can heal and awaken and move into this higher consciousness. I mean, the movement of the lunar nodes has been exquisite in these last few years, taking us through the ages that got very out of balance and trying to help us work them more consciously. All of these other planetary transits, I think this Neptune conjunction with Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, where the Sabian symbol is a woman rises out of the sea and a seal rises up and embraces her. What do we need to do to change and dissolve the out of balanced paradigms of the age of Aries? Honor the return of the sacred feminine to guide us back into right relationship with ourselves, with each other, with all of life. So when we begin to open to the consciousness of the earth and cosmos, the exquisite ways that they're guiding us is amazing. And you and I, before the recording, were talking about Three Eye Atlas, which I wish I had known about before I finished writing the book and could have included, because its movements and the synchronization of its timing and the way in which I think it's bringing this resonance of higher consciousness back into our solar system is amazing. I mean, you were mentioning earlier that the age of the golden age, or the Satya Yuga in the Hindu Yuga cycle, that time of highest consciousness, actually begins with the age of Scorpio, which is also the age of Ophiuchus, since Ophiuchus is the constellation above Scorpius. This amazing intergalactic being, Three Eye Atlas, appeared to us in the sky in the stars of Ophiuchus. And then it's been moving through all of the constellations that were the associated with the ages of our highest levels of consciousness, saying, remember who you truly are, what you're capable of. And then it's made these passes by Mars, Venus, the Earth. It will make its final pass by Jupiter on March 16th. All of those planets are the planets that are the rulers of these ages that got so out of balance. Venus, the ruler of the age of Taurus, Mars of the age of Aries, Jupiter, the traditional ruler of the age of Pisces. So it's simultaneously saying, remember who you are in your capacity of consciousness and heal these out of balanced paradigms. Heal how you are in relationship, Venus. Heal how you're acting. Heal and remember the ancient wisdom, Jupiter. So it's really extraordinary to feel the ways in which we're held in the love and wisdom of the cosmos if we open to that and then allow ourselves to be in this process of healing and transformation.
Yeah, and I feel called to say this. The date of the release of your book kept getting changed. Do you want to say anything about the significance of the date? When
So I had finished it in the spring. I so wanted it to come out in the summer. This is why Three Eye Atlas isn't in it because it wasn't discovered until July. And then I thought, well, maybe it will be able to come out in the fall. And it's coming out now, March 17th, the day after Three Eye Atlas does its pass by Jupiter.
it's so good. It's so funny. And then Three Atlas is like, I don't need to be in the book. I'm good. I just do my thing anyway. Oh man. Oh, I love it. Yeah, such a beautiful day. I mean, truly. It's like, wow.
What's beautiful too, Martha, is I think so many of us and so many of us in your community, my community, are so sensitive to the suffering in the world right now and how turbulent things are. And that, I think, knowing the larger context, that is the purging, the clearing that's going on, that needs to happen for us to heal and move into this higher consciousness, and then to know how held we are to be guided through this really can help us stay centered in the midst of this turbulent time.
Exactly. Yes, and relating to that, I'm just getting this image of Three Eye Atlas. And I'll come back to what you just said in a second. I at one point, I think I've channeled Three Eye Atlas a couple of times, but at somewhere in all of that, I had this image of Three Eye Atlas being similar to the have you watched the movie Pete's Dragon, the children's movie? No? No. Okay. Well, anyway, I loved that movie as a child, and then watched it with my kids so many times when they were younger. And anyway, one of my favorite movies. So in the movie, uh, yeah, Pete, a little boy, has a dragon who comes. Pete is an orphan basically, and the dragon comes and kind of helps him escape from these very abusive kind of foster parents. And then the dragon helps Pete find his true home, and then the dragon leaves, to go help the next child or whatever. And anyway, I love this movie. Probably partly because I was an adoption social worker, and that's kind of how I felt all the
I
time.
was
But
thinking that.
yeah, exactly. But that's when I even right this minute I'm tuning into. I haven't tuned into Three Eye Atlas since December 19th, when it made the closest flyby with the Earth. And now we're heading toward the time when it's going to do the flyby with Jupiter. And suddenly it's energetic is coming more around for me. And again, I'm feeling that energy of Three Atlas saying, hey guys, just I reminded you that you're loved, and that I reminded you of this unity consciousness and the truth of who you really are. And you're good. No, I'm gonna go on. I mean, that's how I'm personally feeling it right in this second, but it's just so, mm, yeah, it could make me cry. Um, but the other thing kind of related to that I wanted to say back to what you were just saying is that um, 2 days ago, so, we're recording this March 2nd, 2026, and 2 days ago, very, 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 very awful, terrible things happened in the world. And I had a moment of feeling especially affected, especially kind
Mm,
of
mm,
down
mm.
energetically. And there are so many things happening in the world all the time that are incredibly upsetting. And I'm always noticing them and upset by them, certainly. But occasionally there'll be a moment where I'm extra kind of, and the human part of me is extra upset. Yeah. And and really then reading your book, I'm not kidding you, truly was a medicine to help me lift out of that and go, okay, got it. This is why we're here. This is what I'm doing here. Um, right. This is part of the deal. This is part of the moment we came into. It's sort of analogous for me of, let's say, working in an emergency room or being at a site of some disaster that has happened or something. And if we are there to serve and to be of service in that moment, which I believe we are here and now, it doesn't help if we stop in the middle of the rubble and have a breakdown. I mean, maybe occasionally we need to because we're human and it's devastating what's going on. Um, but that's not the point, right? To get lost in it wouldn't serve us to serve in the way that we're here to be. So I feel like, again, your book really helped me to come back to ground and help me come back to center, which I think is kind of the point of it. And yeah, just get the bigger picture again. Like, okay, got it. Yes, this is to be expected. Here we go. Let's go. Like, let's do what we're here to do. Um,
Well, and I think another part that's so important in what I hope comes through in the book, again, is that whole understanding of the medicine wheel. And if you think about this precessional cycle and our journey through the different astrological ages, coming to center is ultimately our alignment with the galactic center,
yeah.
the source of all of the life in our galaxy. And when we come to the center of the medicine wheel, we really are in that place of connection with unity consciousness, with cosmic consciousness. We do remember, I'm a soul self having this human experience. And we collectively are humans here to be on the earth plane, to be in this experience of embodiment, to have these experiences that support us in our growth and evolution, and to be feeling what we're experiencing, but to remember we are soul selves. And that gives us then the context for remembering, first of all, we're part of infinity, we never die, and to then use whatever we're experiencing for our growth and evolution. And to remember, as I don't know if you've read uh, Christopher Bache's book, LSD in the Mind of the Universe.
Mm-mm.
Brilliant book. I'm going to be interviewing him tomorrow, actually.
Mm.
But
Awesome.
part of what he talked about in his journey of moving into higher and higher levels of consciousness and expansion as he was in his own process with these experiences with LSD is that he couldn't ever enter a level of higher consciousness without first purging, feeling, purging, letting die all that was out of balance.
Yeah.
So we can't just do a spiritual bypass and just, you know, move into a new way of being. Part of what we're doing on the planet right now is feeling the pain and trauma of what we've been through and
Yes.
of how out of balance and lost we've been.
Yeah.
In order to return to our connection to source, to come to center, to feel that incredible gratitude and ability to take in the love of the cosmos, to come back into relationship and into who we truly are with so much more reverence and gratitude and appreciation.
Yes.
But we have to honor this transition time that we're in and the healing that needs to happen to open to that expanding consciousness.
Yes. And this is coming to me. I'm curious to get your perspective on this. I haven't thought of this in this way before. Um, so speaking of the spiritual bypassing part, right? I'm realizing maybe there's also a component here of, so you and I both have backgrounds as psychotherapists and working with trauma and attachment and all of that. And when you're working with a client, let's say, but in this case, we're here to support the planet. The planet is our client, you could say. But when we're working with a one-on-one client as a therapist, there's a need for us to hold the client in a safe container in a way that where our own emotions, we're not going to sit there and like break down sobbing because of their trauma that we're witnessing. And yet at the same time, if we are holding space for client after client after client after client after client after client, and we ignore our own experience of the vicarious trauma or the secondary trauma, we will not do well. Right? So there's a need, even even though, yes, we're here to maybe do whatever it is we're here to do to serve the planet in this moment, there's a certain, I'm recognizing just in this minute, there's maybe a parallel here of the need for us to continually hold space for ourselves as humans and nurture our own emotional needs, not just do a spiritual bypass of, oh, it's fine, everything's perfect, because, and I'm here to just recognize that everything's fine, right? On a certain level, it's not fine. And it's incredibly tragic and awful. And our emotional bodies are responding. I mean, inevitably, right? So there's this. Do you want to speak a little to any of that? Yeah.
Oh, there's so many layers to what you're talking about, Martha. I think, again, when we are centered and when we are in the center of the medicine wheel, we can be in the eye of the storm. We're in that place of alignment with our soul selves, with the earth and sky, so that we can feel what's going on around us, but we don't get pulled out of balance by it or mired in it or identified with it. And that's the key, I think, in this time is to feel what we're feeling, but keep coming back to center. Keep coming back into that remembrance of who we are and that we are held by the earth and sky and the love and wisdom of cosmic consciousness. But the other piece I think is important in what you're saying is in terms of some of these exquisite planetary energies. I mean, we've gotten more aware of these healing centaurs that Melanie Reinhardt so beautifully talks about and writes about. They have been in such powerful configurations in the sky in these past few years and in the upcoming years. And they are so much about taking time to look at the ancestral trauma. As Follis, the healing center, would say, take the lid off, see it, heal it. Chiron helping us work through these wounds individually and collectively. And Cheriklo, which I was thinking of when you were just talking, Cheriklo is that capacity to hold sacred space for each other, to hear each other, to be with each other in the times of pain and suffering without getting pulled out of balance, but to hold that sacred presence and capacity to truly hear and see the other.
Yeah, and that's another beautiful part of your book, which is that you have a whole section on those four centaurs, and then you bring in um, the Orc cloud being Sedna, which you did in your original book, but you also then bring in the Kuiper belt being Quawar and Erisina. But Erisina was in the first book too, right? But not Quawar. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to add in? I mean, we could just go on and on and for hours and hours. It's so much here. But yeah.
Well, speaking of Quawar, I just find it absolutely fascinating, Martha, and I'm surprised that more astrologers aren't talking about this, that actually for years now, Pholus, the healing centaur,
Yeah. Yeah.
Quawar,
Yeah.
and the other Kuiper belt object, Ixion, and
Right.
I pronounce it that way purposefully,
Okay.
have been in conjunction with each other through the sign of Sagittarius. Now they're in Capricorn. They're going to move into Aquarius together. But that combination, that dance of those three, I think is so symbolic of
Yeah.
everything we're dealing with in this transition time. Ixion is about the Greek myth of this man who's so caught up in ego, in self-interest, in his own impulsivity. He acts, doesn't care about the consequences. It's such a reflection of the out of balance Kali Yuga energy. And it's been conjunct Pholus, take the lid off, heal the trauma that's come from that kind of behavior and that way of being in order to Quawar, come back into balance and harmony. Quawar was that ancient creation deity of the indigenous people who lived in Southern California 7,000 years ago, who was androgynous, integrated the masculine and feminine, and sang all creation into being, and then called all of creation into that song of harmony with the spheres. So that's what we're moving into and what we're called into. But we have to heal these ways we've gotten so out of balance and forgotten who we are and how to be in right relationship with each other, with the earth, with the cosmos.
Yeah.
So that those three in their movements together are so guiding us in what we need to do to move into this whole new way of being.
Yes. And then the combo that I would pair with that, which is really speaking to me also, is Haumea and Chiron, because I mean we know, right, how Haumea currently has been squaring Pluto, but I sent you this in an email, I don't know if a few weeks ago, but so powerful that as Chiron moves from Aries into Taurus, it's going to be opposing Haumea. And then at the time when the North Node comes to be conjunct Pluto, Haumea will be precisely squaring the nodes and squaring Pluto with Chiron opposite Haumea. So
Yeah.
it's going to be, I mean, like, what? That is amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
Part of what I don't know if you feel this way, Martha, but part of what I love as an astrologer, and when I was learning how to do readings, I kept thinking, oh, the universe is so kind because
Mm,
if there's a critical theme in this person's life, it will come through three different ways in the chart. So
yeah.
that if I miss it the first way or the second way, I'll finally see it the third way. And I feel like that's what's happening for us collectively right now. The cosmos, in all these ways, is saying, look, you have this possibility to transform into the paradigms of Aquarius, Pluto and Aquarius, squaring Haumea and Scorpio, transform, regenerate.
Mm.
And Chiron not only is in these amazing configurations you've just described, but it has been in this dance with Arizina now,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
conjunction in Aries.
Yes.
Chiron, again, the lowest point of the Kali Yuga was in the age of Aries when we got caught in war, in power over, in destruction. And Chiron is saying, heal those out of balance patterns of the age of Aries to Eris Xena, move in radically new directions.
And Aristina in Cetus the whale, right? So again, that like dark feminine mother
Yes,
energy. Yeah.
reclaim the sacred feminine energy to come back into balance.
Wow. Okay. Oh
And
my goodness.
Sedna is
Good, not
part of
not
it
space. Yeah.
because she's got this 11,400 year orbit. She's now at her closest to our inner solar system. And then she has this elliptical orbit, such that she journeys out to the inner Oort cloud. But her orbit, and when she comes in to our inner solar system, is when we're in this critical time of change in the precessional cycle. And she's saying, wake up. This is the critical time. So she's the messenger of that. But then the story of the Inuit goddess who goes through her transmutation in a stormy time to merge into that spiritual expansion to become the goddess of the deep sea. She is so speaking to our possibility to be in that transmutation process and to go through that metamorphosis to become beings of light and love.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's one last layer I would love to just tie up this up with, if that's okay. Um, which is okay, with this incredibly prominent presence of so much support for us to come back into, um, or I should say, for the power of the full feminine to come back into life, come back into the reality that it exists here and now as us. Um, Something I've been really sitting with and witnessing in a lot of people in my courses and anyway, in my community, and I'm guessing you have as well, is what feels like an opportunity to not only witness the fall of patriarchy, the to witness the external rubble occurring, but it feels like there is a responsibility or yeah, an opportunity that I hope we will choose to step into to not only watch what we don't like falling apart, but also to claim in our own being what we actually are and um and to let, you could say, the dark goddess re-embody us, right? So like to let, and not only the dark goddess, but the full goddess, the full god, the full masculine and feminine both. But it does feel like there's an especially important opportunity right now us to recognize that the only way for us to be re-empowered, literally to have our power back, is for us to be it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Beautifully
want to speak,
said.
you want to speak to any of
I
those?
don't know. Did you know that I just finished
Yes.
doing the Four
Yes.
Faces of the Goddess with Kelly Kolodny?
Yes. And I just want to say, I've heard from multiple people how much that impacted them. And that's part of why it's been coming up in my community because people got so much out of, yeah, your course with Kelly and your part of it in particular. And yeah, just yes. So yes, yes. Yeah.
Well, again, it's this incredible understanding of the medicine wheel and our need. The medicine wheel guides us to come back into our wholeness, to come to center, and to integrate all of who we are. And part of what I was talking about in that program, and part of this was really influenced by my learning about the medicine wheel and some of these facets of the great goddess from Oki Forest, an indigenous Mohawk medicine woman 30 years ago. So, part of what I was teaching in that course last week was my own version of how we need to reclaim these aspects of the sacred feminine wisdom to bring that back in its wholeness in this time and for us to embody that, men and women to embody those energies in this time. And part of what I was talking about is in the patriarchal period, the aspects of the sacred feminine that are honored are nurturing mother and rainbow woman, keeping everything in balance and harmony. But it creates this out of balance sacred feminine energy when it's not in its wholeness, integrating death mother and wild woman. So the energy of Sekhmet, the energy of standing up for truth and justice and knowing when to say enough is enough. And Lilith, that connection with nature, with the wild, with sacred sexuality, with the fullness of the life and the sacredness of the life around us. So we have to reclaim this deeper understanding of the sacred feminine wisdom that's been distorted and lost and repressed to heal to guide us in coming back into balance with the sacred masculine to move into these new ways of being.
Yeah. And yes, and there's again this that could be, weeks of conversation just that by itself. But one of the things I've been really witnessing in all of that is um when I think ahead a few months to the South Node being in Leo and then the North Node coming to be conjunct Pluto, right? There's going to be, and there already is, because we just had this solar eclipse in Aquarius. So that was kind of, to me, really starting that set of energies because Aquarius is opposite Leo. And anyway, right. So, um, I think with the prominence of the Leo energies, South Node, Jupiter, and Mars all being in Leo this coming a few months from now and into next year, so much is going to be coming up for us around power and around what power really is and what sacred power is, what sacred leadership is, what um, Regulus is going to be very highlighted, right? So the sacred leadership of the heart, etc. And as I've been sitting with people, something I that's been dawning on me is, oh wow, there is this whole layer of trauma, of course, around power. I mean, obviously, okay, but when I'm witnessing people sort of coming face to face with, let's say, the Lilith energy of themselves, the the deepest soul power that they are, the reality that we are, every single one of us is literally the power of existence itself, which to me is uh, how I feel when I'm really embodying Lilith energy. That's on the one hand, for a lot of us, I think amazing and almost ecstatic. And at the same time, all of our trauma from past Leo energies, Plutonian energies, any and all power imbalance traumas are going to kind of inevitably rise up as well, right? So what I really am sitting with is when we then have something like the Haumea energy involved in that dance. I feel like some of these dark goddesses, Haumea, the Erisina, the Lilith, I feel like they can support us to recognize, oh, there are versions of power that we can kind of test, kind of try on, kind of try to remember in our own bodies and our own beings that are not that are not the models we see out there of what kind of I want to call fake power is, right? That all of that trauma that we've experienced in this lifetime and other lifetimes and we're witnessing going on in the world, that's not real power. And so we need models. And I feel like the Haumea is a beautiful example of the embodiment of full regenerative power of life. Erisina in her own way, Lilith in her own way, and Chiron in that dance really helping us with the healing of all of it. And then Pluto, even in its own medicine, right? Really helping us embody the truth of soul power, not the out of balance version. So, anyway, there's something in that feels really, really important to help us land in this time and, yeah, be who we're really here to be.
Well, I think part of what you're saying too, Martha, that's so important is the difference between empowerment,
Mm, mm.
that sovereignty of the self, versus the power over paradigms we've been in the Kali Yuga, where we've been most out of balance and at our lowest level of consciousness. I see as a trauma response.
Yes.
And we could get into the earth crises and what was activating our movement into the patriarchal period and these power over paradigms. But from my perspective, they're ultimately about being on the trauma triangle:
Yes.
perpetrator, victim, rescuer.
Yes.
If you're terrified and caught in survival mentality, as you so well know as a therapist, the responses to acute trauma are fight, flight, freeze. So What are wars about? The fear that I need to kill or be killed, or someone's taking my territory, taking my security. So we've been caught in trauma patterns for 5,000 years. And the tragedy is we think that's how humanity has always been.
Mm.
And it's not. It's humanity in trauma.
Yeah,
And that part of the healing in this time is to step off the trauma triangle, step into the center, heal, release those ways that we've all experienced in recent incarnations, either being perpetrator, victim, or many of us women today are still easily caught in that rescuer role.
yeah,
But we're being called to heal all that, to step into the center, into true empowerment, which then isn't coming from reactivity, it's coming from responsibility
yeah,
and the capacity then to live from our hearts with courage, Leo, to step into the Aquarian paradigms that are about truth, justice, compassion, community, collaboration. Then we can co create a new world together.
exactly. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Well, again, this could be a whole course in and of itself, Heather, and maybe someday you'll actually manifest that because it would be amazing. But the book in and of itself is absolutely, like I said, a true masterpiece. I highly, highly recommend it. I would say I would recommend it to people not only because of the data involved, but it's a soothing. I feel like it's a medicine wheel almost in and of itself, right? That it just
Mm,
actually helps us to come around and around and around and around that circle and then land in the center of who we
mm.
are. And so on that level, highly, highly, highly recommend it for anybody and everybody. And yeah. Is there any last thing you feel called to say about um yeah.
I just so appreciate what you just said, Martha. And my hope always, and with that book, is not that it would be about the content, but it would be the activation, the energetic to support us in remembering who we are and what we're capable of, how to come back to center so that together we can. And I see this happening more and more. You see it in your community, I see it in mine. More and more of us are coming from our hearts and connecting in new ways and coming back into relationship, into community, into collaboration. And if enough of us do that and keep emanating that energy of love and higher consciousness into the morphogenic field, it will heal and transform the world.
Exactly. It's literally why we're here, who we are, etc.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather, truly, for all you do for the world. And mm, such an honor to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for all you're doing, Martha.
Oh, wonderful. See you all soon. The links are below. Okay.